So we're going to begin first by, since this is the first video, I'm going to show you the order of everything and how it should be stapled in your packet. Your choices are, if you're an in-person student, SCHS should be back from being virtual on the 30th of November. So you're either seeing this on the 30th of November or on December 1st, depending if you're a Monday or Tuesday class. So I'm going to go through that. If you're in person, you'll go up to the front of the room, you'll staple all of the things there, or hole punch, however you want to keep up with them. And then this is actually all that you will do between now and Christmas break. Now, if you are a virtual student, these will be put into your OneNote notebook. There is a PDF option that you can print it out if you'd like. The icon will be right above the worksheet, so you can do that if you'd like. I'm also going to give you the choice. I made enough copies to where the majority of you that were asking for copies, you could go in person. Now, you'll need to tell the front office if they'll let you go into my room and staple a packet. Again, they're at the front of the room. You just staple them and grab the worksheets and then leave. If they can, they'll let you enter the room, do that, and then you can leave with the packet. Now, if you are a virtual student and Mr. Overcast is not busy, I've asked him to please do me the favor of giving you a packet. So, once again, those are your choices. And that's about it. If you have to do it online on OneNote notebook, just remember, more than anything, since I'm not taking up the homeworks anymore, you can always do it on a scrap sheet of paper. Just label it with the homework number or the note's name so you know where they go. And remember, 10 through 16 homeworks, they are not turned in. I'm not checking them in OneNote notebook. You're not turning them in. You don't have to take a picture. You keep them. And on December 16th or 17th, depending on the class period, you're going to take a homework quiz where you should have all your homeworks completed by then, and you're going to answer questions over those 6 homeworks. Okay, so we're going to begin now going over the packet. We're going to start today with classifying triangles. That is what the notes are called. These are notes. These are all front and back, in case you're wondering, every single sheet. Then we're going to do a classwork, not today, but for the next class period, we will do a worksheet called Solving for Triangle Sides with Algebra. After we get done with those 2 assignments, you will be assigned homework 14. Again, front and back on those. The next set of notes will be triangle, angle, sum, theorem notes, front and back. The next class period after that, we'll do more practice with solving for angles, so no homework on those until we get done with both of those, and then you'll have homework 15 assigned. Again, front and back. The last set of notes is called isosceles triangles. There is not a classwork with that one. And then you have homework 16. That is your last one. There should be nothing after that. So what are we doing today? Today we're doing classifying triangles notes only. We will do this one the next class period, but what I will do is I will go ahead and tell you which questions on homework 14 you could go ahead and start doing so it doesn't bunch up on you and you have a whole bunch to do. Now, I've already recorded this video once and it lagged very badly every like 3 minutes, so I had to re-record it. So I'm trying it again, this time through stream. And then I'll pass it on and have it in stream and also on YouTube, just in case it messes up. It'll be available in both. Okay, so we're going to get started. All we're doing today is the note sheet. It should take us around 30 to 40 minutes to do, no more than that. And then also, we really shouldn't need a calculator for what we're doing today. There was one number that I had to kind of get a scrap sheet of paper and multiply out. All the others I could do in my head. So that number was, I had to multiply 16 times 16 and I got 256. So for the most part, you should be good with what we're doing today with just using your noggin. You don't really need a calculator. Now, when we do this second part that we'll be doing the next class period, so either Wednesday or Thursday, you will need a calculator. We're doing algebraic work. Right now, it's not algebraic work. So again, have a calculator ready, have your phone ready, whatever you're using as a calculator. For those in class, I have assigned everyone a calculator now. I shared that picture in Teams, but I also left it in the on top of my table, on top of my desk, sorry. I left it beside everyone's name. I put what calculator number you were, and I put on there to please assign everyone a calculator. So everyone has a calculator now, regardless of if you paid or not. I marked you as fee waiver, and those who weren't fee waiver, I put the money back in. So we should be good to go, and everybody's been assigned a calculator. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move forward with the notes. So today's date, depending on the class period, will be 11/30 or 12/01. Again, if for any reason class changes, just use common sense, use the date that it actually is, for if something gets changed. Okay, next is which class periods we're using. So the class period will be either, so for 11/30, it'll be 3rd, 5th, or 8th. And for the other one, it'll be 2nd, 4th, or 7th. Okay, now remember, from this point forward, I won't be doing any live calls anymore. Everything that I'm doing, I'm pre-recording. So just keep that in mind. You can still ask me questions about the homework and I'll still try to help. And if we absolutely need to, as long as I have time, I could schedule a call with you if there's just something urgent that we need to talk one-on-one with. Okay, the topic is triangles. Now, these videos should last all the way up until Christmas break. After Christmas break, you will have a teacher in the classroom, and it will be her say over what you get taught, how you get taught, and your grade. So just right now, anything for Q1 or Q2, direct it to me, and watch the videos that I'm leaving. Okay, first part should be review, except for maybe when we get to the last one. We're going to talk about how to classify triangles by their angle. So this is important because there's 2 ways to classify. If it says classify and it says by angles, then this is what they want you to do. They want you to pick one of these words here. If it has 3 acute angles, which I'm just going to put something in the corners just to show you what acute means. So if it has 50, okay, if it has, let's say 65. Okay, so now I have to make sure that the last one works. So that would be 515, 180 minus 115 would be 7, 10 minus 1 is 5. So 65 would be the next one, right? 12, 130 plus 50. Yeah. Okay, so the next one would have to be 65 again. Okay, could have changed it a little bit more. But 65 would work. Okay, so either I don't see anything marked, or what I do see marked is something like this. 50, 65, and 65. I'm trying to write that a little bit better, but I think the glare is pretty strong. So if each corner is less than 90 degrees, which in this case it is, either you see it with the numbers or the numbers are left off, but you can tell. If it has 3 acute angles, then this is called an acute triangle. Now for this first one, I'm drawing the triangle. This is how you can write it. From this point forward, I'm going to write the word triangle because obviously those at home, it's harder for them to draw a triangle. Okay. 1 obtuse angle. Well, it can't have 3 obtuse angles. This one had 3 acute. If it has 3 large angles like these, it would not close and it wouldn't be a triangle. So it can only have 1. So we can give it a value of, 115, something like that. If it is over 90 degrees, either by looking at it or the number that you see, this is called an obtuse triangle. Okay, what if there's a box in the corner? Now we know that that means 90 degrees. So either it gives you the number, gives you the box, or it gives you the other 2 numbers, and when you subtract them from 180, you're left with 90. So as long as you can tell that that's 90 in some way, this would be a right triangle. Okay, and then the last one, you have 3 corners. The 3 corners are either marked with the same tick mark, which means they are congruent, or they also could give you the value of those 3. So let's figure out what that value is. Now, this is never going to change. This will always be the same value. Remember what we learned about sums of polygons from the very last lesson we did. We learned that in triangles, you're going to have 180 degrees every time. So if we have 180 degrees and we're supposed to split this up into even 3 corners, that means you're going to divide this into thirds. The way you do that is you divide it by 3. Might seem hard to do, but cover up the 0. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and then bring down that 0. So it's 60. So each corner is 60. Either they'll give you 60 in each corner, or they'll give you the little tick marks. As long as that happens, and this is probably the new one that you haven't heard before, it's going to be called an equiangular triangle. Okay, so just to review, 3 acute angles, regardless of the number, is going to be an acute triangle. 1 obtuse triangle, whatever the number is, as long as it's bigger than 90, so it's going to have a wide opening, is going to be an obtuse triangle. And then finally, the next one that you should already know is a right triangle, and that is if it has a box, if it has 90 degrees written in it, or if it's missing one of the corners, but after you subtract them from 180, you get 90. Okay. The new one that I think most of you guys probably don't know is the equiangular triangle, and that is either all the corners are labeled with 60 or all of them are labeled with 1 tick mark. So again, now we're going to practice looking at a picture and being able to write which one of these words that picture represents. This is something else to keep in mind. When classifying by angles, you look inside the triangle. Okay, and that makes sense because angles are inside of the triangle. So when classifying by angles, look inside. Okay, let's try to do a few together. So I'll highlight some, I might shade a few. I will use a pencil and erase sometimes just to not make it so messy. Okay, C, D, E. I go to C, I go to D, I go to E, and then I close it up. Okay, here is C, D, E, this whole thing here. Okay, what type of triangle is this? So you look in the corners. So I'm going to kind of put dots here. The first corner that I see is right there. It has a box. The one that has a box is called a right triangle. Okay, so that's how we get the answer. Okay, we'll do another one. BCE. Go to B, to C, to E, close it up. This one here. Okay, so the one in orange. Okay, looking at it, there is no box, so it can't be right. All 3 of them don't have a number in them with the same value or a tick mark, so it can't be equiangular, so it's between these 2. Basically, which one does it look the most like? Also, you can tell, C is wide, so therefore this is an obtuse triangle. Okay, we keep going. ABE is the next one. I go to A, over to B, over to E, and then I close it up. Okay, that one there. This one has the same tick mark in all 3 corners. Automatically, I should know this is the equiangular. Triangle. Okay, BDE. Now this one I'll just kind of highlight with a pen. B, D, and E. So I go to B, D, and E. Okay, so I did this in red. Hopefully it shows up. I think it does. Okay. So there we have that one. Now, this one encompasses a couple of triangles, or actually 3 of them. So keep that in mind. So always look at the corners, B, D, and E. If it helps cover up part of it, so I've got a sticky note here. This is the only triangle you're looking at as a whole, that one right there, okay? Don't look at the green one. Now, imagine those two parts are together. So when we're looking at the corner right here, which is point E, we're looking at this whole corner here, not just the box. So it can't be 90 degrees because it's the whole thing. As soon as it's over 90 degrees, it has to be obtuse. So this is an obtuse triangle. And again, the reason was because as soon as we saw that it added on to the 90 degrees, it was going to be obtuse triangle. Okay, and then the last one, I'll kind of just make marks on it so I don't have to highlight anymore. CFE. So CFE is this one that I'm going to put just this. I'm going to make it bolder, and I put stripes on it just to make it pop out a little bit. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to cover up the bottom because yes, there is a box there, but the box runs into the bottom. So it's actually not part of the corner there. And then if I wanted to, could cover up the top as well. So I'm only looking at that one. Okay, looking at that triangle, the box is part of the one on the bottom that I covered up. So it can't be 90 degrees because it's covering up part of the box. Can't be this one because they don't all three have 60 on them or the same tick mark. So it's between these two. Basically, which one does it look like? Does it look like it has a wide opening or does it look like it's smaller? So remember, this wide opening was part of the other two combined. So ignore that mark we made. If it was done in pencil, I would have erased it. So now if I look at the shape of it, the closest one to it would be the acute one. So this is an acute triangle. Okay, so those are those answers. If you need to take a minute to take a picture of this, we're going to move on to classifying still. So if the instruction says classify by angles, this is how you do it. But what if it says classify by sides? Then it changes a little bit. Okay, so what if it says by sides? So when it says by sides, they're actually talking about the outside of the triangle. So I'm going to write that down. By sides, look on the outside of the triangle. Okay, so there are only three. So the top one had four options. Whenever you have a triangle, either all three of the sides are the same, two of them are the same, or none of them are the same. Those are your only options because there's only three sides. So there's no other way to look at them. So when three sides are congruent, when three sides are the same, these are called equilateral. And again, you can either write the word or the symbol. Now, just so you know, if it's equilateral, it's automatically equiangular. They go hand in hand. If it's equiangular, then it's automatically equilateral. So keep that in mind, because if you have a triangle that's equilateral, you automatically know it's equiangular, like they just go together. So that's something to keep in mind. It'll save you some work. Okay, now let's go to what if two sides are the same? So this was all three were the same. What if two of them are marked the same? Well, if two of them are marked the same, this is called an isosceles triangle. And finally, either they will label none of them the same. So like this one has a value, but we don't know what it is. But it doesn't have a tick mark on it. This one doesn't have a tick mark on it. And this one doesn't have a tick mark on it. They're all different values. Now, they could put like one tick mark, two tick marks, three tick marks, or they could leave the tick marks off. Both of that means that none of them are the same. So if nothing is the same, then this is called a scalene triangle. Okay, now that we know that, we're going to go through and get some answers. So there's only three examples on this one, probably one of each. We'll see. JKM. Go to J, go to K, go to M. It's actually the whole large triangle. I'm not going to shade it in because I'll probably be shading in other things. Okay. Look on the outside, remember. I have one tick mark here. And then now look at this yellow piece as a whole. I have two tick marks and then nothing. I have one tick mark and then nothing. I would have to have one tick mark on all three sides, which I don't. I would have to have two tick marks the same on two of the sides, which I don't. Or I have to have different ones. Now, even though this one has one and this one has one, the whole side is 1 plus a piece. This one is 2 plus a piece. And then this is 1. So none of the sides are the same. So this would be an example of a scalene triangle. Also, you can tell that none of the distances are the same. Most of these are drawn to scale, so keep that in mind. Okay, the next one is KLN. K to L to N is this one here. Okay, looking at that green piece, two of them have two tick marks and then one has one tick mark. Since two of them have the same amount of tick marks, two of them are the same. And if we look, two sides the same will be isosceles. And just so you know, we will have, if you paid attention when we were going over the packet, we will have a separate lesson when we talk about all of the properties of isosceles triangles because they actually have more properties. If I actually wanted to draw them in, their base angles are the same. We will talk about those when we get to those lessons. Okay, last one, JKN. Okay, so JKN will be this one here. I'm just going to do that so I don't have to shade in the whole thing. Okay, looking at it, there's one tick mark, one tick mark, one tick mark all the way around, same one all the way around. So this is equiangular triangle. Okay, now let's put this together. We're going to be given sides and angles in the same picture. So therefore, we're going to have to name two words, one from this stack here, and then one from this stack up here. So we're going to be naming two words. Okay. So this will be said by saying classify, and it'll say angles and sides. So don't mess up and get 50-50 wrong, you know, because you don't pay attention to the instructions. At this point, we can leave off the word triangle. So, I mean, I know they're triangles, and I'm not going to make you write it out. So just give me the word, either acute, obtuse, right, or equilateral. Excuse me. Or give me the word scalene, isosceles, or equiangular. Now, that way I don't have to keep looking up at the top. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to put angles, and I'm going to put the three words that the four words it could be. It could be acute, obtuse, right, or equiangular. Okay, those are my four words. What about by sides? There's only three. Okay, so remember those three, and they're already up there, but I'm going to write them again. It could be equilateral, which remember we said equiangular and equilateral go together every time. It could be isosceles. And finally, it could be scalene. Okay, those are my three choices. So I have to pick one from here, only one. I don't know if you've noticed, but it can only be one of these at a time. And then I have to pick one from here. It can only be one of these at a time. Okay. So I see two parts the same, and I see a right angle. Pick one to start with, and then do the other. So I'm going to always start with angles first. So I'm going to look at the angles first. Then I'll move on to the sides. That way I don't accidentally write the same word twice or overlap a word. Okay, so first I'm going to start with the angles. This box right here represents 90 degrees, and it also means this is a right triangle. Got the first word. So this is right, and let's get the second word. So I've done angles, now let's do sides. Looking at the sides, two of them are the same. If I need to cheat, I'll go back up here. Two congruent sides is isosceles. Okay, so this answer is right and isosceles. You have to write both because it asked you to classify by both. Okay, I'm going to look at the angle first. This is an obtuse angle, so this is an obtuse triangle. And now let's look at the sides. None of them are marked, which means none of them are the same. The word for that will be scalene. Okay, last one. All three corners have 60 degrees in them. If you remember, it's either going to have the same tick mark or all of them are going to be 60 for it to be equiangular. And we can kind of cheat. And even if we didn't have the number on the outside, if it's equiangular, it's automatically equilateral. They go together, okay? But fortunately, this one had 7 all the way around the outside, so we could tell that they were equilateral as well. Okay, take a second to take a picture if you need to, or kind of pause the video if you need to catch up. We're gonna move on to the back of the notes now. Okay, we still have 3 more questions where we do the same thing. Okay, so we have these right here. I have no angles given. Remember, I'm going to start with angles first. I don't see anything that looks obtuse. I don't see a box for it to be right. None of them have a 60 in the corner or the same tick mark. So the default one has to be that this is an acute triangle. And now let's look at the sides. I have a 15, an 18, and a 20. None of the values are the same. So this is going to be acute and scalene. Okay, next one, see a box. That's 90 degrees. I automatically know that's a right triangle. And none of the sides are the same. So nothing is marked. So it's going to be, once again, scalene. Okay. I see a 97. That's not the box. It's not equal to 90. It's not equal to 60 in each corner. 97 is bigger than 90 degrees. So this is an obtuse triangle. And 2 of the numbers are the same, but the last one isn't. When 2 sides are the same, if you remember, that's isosceles. Okay, make sure you write those down. And then we're going to move on to something where it gets harder because of the instructions, because of the wording in the instructions. Once I explain the wording, it won't be so bad, and we'll pick up the pace on the example. And excuse my heavy breathing. I should be going into labor tomorrow. Right now my pains have started, but they're very small and far apart, so I just kind of have to breathe through them. So excuse me if I have some heavy breathing. I know that might bother some that are hearing the video, but I can't help it. Okay, so if PR bisects, so these are the keywords that we need to pay attention to. Bisects, which I will explain in just a second in the picture. Angle SRT, and U is the midpoint of RT. Then it says classify each one by angles and sides. So we're going to do the same thing we've been doing. We're going to name both. Now, here is the problem. If you don't know what bisect means, and you don't know what midpoint means, you're not going to be able to mark the right things in the picture, which means some of your answers will be wrong. So let's review both of them. Bisect means it split the angle in half. So one side of the angle is equal to the other side. So if the whole thing was 50, then they'd each be 25. If the whole thing was 100, they'd each be 50. If I have a number listed there like 20, then the other side is 20 because they're split, so they're each the same. So let's keep that in mind and let's go to the angle. First, I'm going to find PR, and I'm just going to highlight it. There's PR. If that's the one that split an angle, next I need to know what angle it split. It split SRT. So I'm going to go to S, R, and then T. The angle that they're talking about is this one right here. Well, if that angle got split and I see a number there of 30, if that's 30, then this is 30. Okay, keep that in mind. So now that we have that, let's go to the next one where it said something about midpoint. It said midpoint of RT. It said U is the midpoint. Okay, I'm going to find RT. So here's R to T, and here's U. Well, if that's the midpoint, that means it's the middle. So I look, here's UR, and there's 8M. And it has one little tick mark there. If this is the middle, then the other side is exactly the same. That's what it means to me, the midpoint. So I can copy what is on one side to the other side. Okay? Next thing that I want you to realize is if this has one tick mark and this has one tick mark, then this is also 8M because the tick marks match. So if that has one tick mark, that has one tick mark and an 8, this has an 8, I can also put a tick mark there. So this is very specific to the way the picture looks, and it should look like this to make it easier to answer the question when we actually go to the triangle. Now this is going to require us to use the same picture over and over again, so I find it easier to use a pencil, shade, and then erase what I've shaded whenever I'm talking about a triangle. Okay, you can also use the trick by using sticky notes, like little sheets of paper, scrap sheets of paper, putting them on there and blocking out the other ones. Now I'm going to shade and unshade because I think most people will have access to a pencil and can do that. I would stay away from highlighting or coloring because it's going to get pretty messy if you do that, and it'll be harder to see like the original shape afterwards. Okay. Let's go to triangle UQR. Now, no, this is a triangle and not an angle because angles have this mark here. Triangles have a full triangle. Okay, UQR, U, Q, and R. So I go to the corners, U, Q, and R, and I'm going to shade in the triangle that I'm looking at. Okay, ignore everything else. I have first start with 1, so I'm starting with the angles. I have on the inside 120 and 30 degrees. As soon as I see 120, since it's bigger than 90 degrees, I know that this is an obtuse triangle. Okay, now we need the other word. Okay, now I'm going to look at the outside of this triangle. I have an 8, and then nothing marked. The nothing means not the same. The 2 that are both 8 means 2 of them are the same. The word for 2 of them being the same is isosceles. Okay. Next one. And we'll repeat this process every time. So if you want to pause it and see if you can get a few answers, you can do that. And then unpause it and see if you got the right answers. Okay, next one is RST. So I go to R, I go to S, and I go to T. These are the 3 corners. So it's this large triangle here. Okay, so first I look at the corners, then I look at the outside. So I'm going to mark the corners with my pencil because I'm going to erase them afterwards. Those are the 3 corners right there. That's 60, that's 60, so 2 of them are the same. Then I have 30 and 30, which is also 60, so all 3 are the same, and all 3 are marked with 60 degrees. If you remember the word for that one, it's equiangular. Now, you can cheat here. Equiangular automatically means that the second word has to be equilateral. Now, let's verify that. Okay, this side here is the whole thing. The whole thing is 8 and 8, so that's going to be 16. Then it's this piece, that's 16. Then it's this piece, that's 8 and 8, so that's going to be 16. All 3 sides are 16. So yes, this is an equilateral. Okay, so I'm going to erase that one again, just so I can go to the next one. Okay, next, SRQ. Here's S, here's R, and here's Q. It's going to be this one up at the top. And again, if it's hard to weed out the ones that we're looking at, you can always cover up the ones we're not looking at to make it easier for you to get an answer. So if I lose you on that, take a scrap sheet of paper, put it down on the paper so you can cover some of it up. Okay, so this one's 60, this one's 90 because it has the box, and then this one's 30. All 3 corners are different, so it's not equiangular. None of them are bigger than 180, but I see the box. As soon as I see the box, the word that it's going to be is going to be a right triangle. Okay, now we're going to look at the sides. I have 8, I have 16, and then I have nothing marked. So all 3 are different. So this would be a scalene. Okay, I'm going to erase this piece and we're going to move on. PRT. So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit now. P, R, and T is this whole big one here in the bottom. Again, if it helps, cover up the one you're not looking at. And first we look at the corners. Okay, I have nothing marked here. I have 30 marked here. And I have 60 plus something. I don't know what the something is, but obviously none of them are the same because 30, this is already over 30, and then I don't even have a number there. So if all three angles are different, and one of them here looks very large, then this is an obtuse. Put it in this code. This is an obtuse triangle. Okay. Next, I'm going to look at the sides. Well, this is 16. This is 16. Okay. Both of these are 16. I've got two sides the same. Then I have this yellow piece that I don't know anything about what size it is. So it's definitely not going to be the same as 16 and 16. So only two of them are the same. So that is going to be isosceles. Okay. Move on to the next one, TQU. Okay, so I'm just going to leave the part that was already marked. TQU is going to be that one. Erase this part. Again, if you need to, cover up the parts we're not using. So we're not using this one, and we're not using this one. Okay, which ones can I weed out? Well, I can weed out the right triangle because it doesn't have a box. I can also weed out obtuse because this doesn't look obtuse. So the word is either it's equilateral, equal angular, or it's acute. So if all three corners are less than 90, it's acute. If all three corners are equal to 60, then it's going to be equal angular. Now, I can cheat because all three sides have a tick mark on it. And by default, when that happens, all three corners will be the same value. So if all the sides are equal, all the corners are equal. So if this is 60, all of them are 60. Now, how could we get that answer without knowing the sides? Let me explain. You don't have to do this. Technically, once you see the tick marks, you know that not only are the sides the same, the angles are the same. So we should have that answer already. So let me go ahead and write it down. But let me show you why it's true. So it's equiangular and it's equilateral. Okay. Now, I get that answer because it has three tick marks, so by default, all of them have to be 60. But let's say I didn't have the tick marks on there. Well, what I would do to find the angle would be, well, if that's 120, 180 minus 120 gives me 60. So this one's 60. Okay, now that I know that these two are 60, if the whole thing's supposed to be 180, well, 60 plus 60 is 120. Again, 180 minus 120 is going to give me 60. So that's how I know with math that this works. But again, as soon as I saw the three tick marks, I should have just written those two words because they go together and you don't have to do this math to get the answer. Okay, last one is PQT. Here's P, here's Q, and here's T. It's going to be this top one here. Okay, again, if it helps, cover up what's on the bottom. And then now, again, look at the sides first. So I have this side, I have this side, and I have this side. Now, I'm going to uncover something. Hopefully you could tell, but these are vertical angles. So if this has a box, this one has a box. Okay, as soon as I see that box, then I know this is a right triangle. Now again, this required you to remember vertical angles. If not, you would have probably written acute angle and it would have been wrong, or acute triangle and it would have been wrong. Okay, now let's look at the sides. This one has 16, this one has 8, and then this yellow one has nothing. So 3 different sizes. So this is scalene. Okay, so we're done with that part. We're going to move on now to classifying triangles in the coordinate plane. Because of course it gets harder. It's not just here's a picture. Now it's here's some points. Let's do the math. Okay, now again, there was a tough one in there, and that was 16 squared. All the other numbers were simple to do and add. Other than that, they were fine. Okay, we're going to read the instructions first, make sure we don't mess up. So right there. Okay, if we're classifying the triangles by its sides only, okay, didn't say by angles, then we need to focus on the sides, the values of the sides. It says find the measure of the sides. That means find the distance. Now, yes, you can use distance formula, but I already spent enough time explaining the trick, so I'm going to use the trick rather than do distance formula. Now, just to remind you, I will write distance formula up here on this one very quickly for those who prefer it and want to use it and ignore my trick. Distance formula is x sub 2 is x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Now go for it. Use the formula if you want, and that is okay. Every time that I use the trick, you will be using the distance formula. I will not, and what I will do is I will compare my x's, and again, I'm not going to be doing a number line. I'm going to just say it out loud. But I'm going to compare my x's, I'm going to compare my y's, I'm going to square those numbers and then square root them at the end. I'm doing a simplified version of the distance formula, which is actually Pythagorean theorem. Okay, this is how you find your distance. Start with the side. So imagine you're drawing the triangle when you're plotting the points. First, you would connect up J and K. So we're going to find JK and leave some space. Then after we find JK, we're going to find KL, because that would be the next set of points that we find. After we find KL, we would find LJ, because we connect up the L to the J to close up the triangle. Okay, so LJ. Okay, so those are the three that we're going to do. Now, so it's not so confusing and we see all this work here. I'm actually going to cover up this part that says distance so we don't see that big long thing there. And it doesn't mesh in with my work. Okay, so I'm going to do all of this here. Compare your x's. So I'm doing -7 and -9. That's 2 units. You can count up if you need to. So I'm at -7, so it'd be -8, -9, 2 units. 2 squared. Plus, next, -7 and 1. Okay, you can count up if you need to. So you're at -7. Remember, it goes down. So it would be, as you're going towards the 1, so it would be -6, -5, -4, -3, -2. Okay, I keep going. -1, 0, and then I'm at 1. That's 8 units. Okay, so I'm getting all my hands out to kind of count it out. Okay, now that's not how I would do it. I would just say there's 7 numbers on the negative side. There's 1 number on the positive side, 7 and 1, 8 units. Okay, so however you can kind of get to that trick, I think it'll help instead of doing big long square root and all of that. Okay, 2 squared is 4 plus 8 squared is 64. We do 2 times 2 to get 4. We do 8 times 8 to get 64. 4 plus 64 is 68. And then don't forget that we have to square root it. There's our answer. Okay, go to the next one. Now we're comparing K and L. So we're ignoring the first set of numbers. -9 and -1. Again, you can count from -1 to -9. So -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. That's 8 units. Plus. Now I'm comparing 1 and -1. Again, the way I would do it whenever there's negatives and positives, I would do, okay, there's 1 on the positive side, there's 1 on the negative side, so that's 2 units. Okay, once again, 8 squared is 8 times 8, that's 64. 2 times 2 is 4. 64 plus 4 is 68, and don't forget that you're finding the distance, which in this case is Pythagorean theorem, and we have to square root it. Okay, last one. we have LJ. So I'm comparing this one and the first one. -1 and -7. Again, you can count up when they're on, like they're both negative or both positive. It's easy to count up. So like -1 would be -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. That's 6 units, so 6 squared plus. Okay, next one is -1 and -7. So I count up the same way. Hopefully you can tell that it's the same number, right? So -1 would be -2, -3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So once again, 6 units. Okay, 6 times 6 is 36 plus 36. Add them together, you get 72. Don't forget to square root it. Okay, I'm going to move this now. This was just so it didn't get confusing when we were doing the work because we had the formula there. And again, I didn't use that formula. So I'm actually going to, I think the ones who wanted to use it probably wrote it down. I'm going to white it out so it doesn't get confusing on the work. I did not use that formula. I used basically Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so now that it's gone, it's not confusing, it's not going into my work. How do I know what my answer is? Because the question was find the measure of the sides. I've done that. Then it says then classify by the sides. Okay, let's compare the answers we got. 2 of these numbers are the same. 1 of them is not. That's a fancy way of saying 2 numbers the same means 2 sides congruent. Okay, and if you don't remember what word that is, you can go to the very first worksheet that we did, the front of the worksheet that we did. 2 congruent sides, the word for that is isosceles. Okay, so I come over here and I write the word isosceles. So when 2 sides are the same, it's isosceles. Okay, we have 2 other options. If all 3 numbers come out the same, then it's equilateral. If no number comes out the same, like all 3 are different numbers, then it's scaling. So let's do one more together. Then I would like for you to try the last one. So I'd like for you to pause it and try that last one on your own. But I will give you the answer as well. Okay, same thing that we did. Again, if you're using distance formula, yours will look a little bit different, but same exact steps. We'll pick up the pace just so you can see how quickly it is to do these problems. Okay, first we're going to find the first 2, so that's JK. Then we're going to find the next 2, it's going to be KL. And then we're going to link them up because this is a triangle, so we connect up all 3 and then go back to the beginning. So it's going to be, what am I doing? LJ, I wrote the wrong thing. Okay, now I do like to write out the letters first before I begin, leave some space just so I don't accidentally mess up and grab the wrong points. Okay, I'm going to compare these numbers, -3 and 2. 3 units on the negative, 2 units on the positive, so this is 5 squared, plus 2 and 6. So this one I could count up. I'm at 2, so I would go 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 4 units. Okay, 5 squared is 5 times 5, that's 25, plus 4 times 4 is 16. 25 plus 16 is going to give me 41, and then don't forget that you square root at the end. Okay, we're going to do our next one, 2 to 8. So 2 to 8 would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6 units. Plus 6 and -1. So again, when I have negatives and positives, I like to count it as, okay, 6 positive units and 1 negative unit. That's 7 units. 6 squared is 6 times 6. That's 36, plus 7 times 7 is 49. 36 plus 49 is 85. And then don't forget, because this is distance, we're square rooting this. Right off the bat, I get 2 different numbers. So I know it's not an equilateral because 2 of the numbers are already different. Okay, now if I get square root of 85 or 41 again, then it's going to be just like this one, isosceles. If I get something completely different, then all 3 are different and it's going to be scaling. Okay, let's do the last one. 8 and -3. Again, since they're negative and positive, I would do 8 units that are positive, 3 units are negative. 8 plus 3 is going to be 11 squared. Plus, I have a -1 and a 2. Same thing. 1 negative unit, 2 positive units. So 3 squared, because 1 and 2 make 3. Okay, you should know these, hopefully. 11 times 11 is a multiplication fact you should know. So 11 times 11 is 121, plus 3 times 3 is 9. Add them together, you get 130. Since this is distance, don't forget to put a square root. Okay, so just an explanation. No numbers the same means no congruent sides. Okay, so just explaining what we just got. Okay, so if you remember, the word for no congruent sides was scalene. Notice that we cannot compare it with angles. When we find distance, we are finding sides. We're finding the outside. We're not in the inside of the triangle. So do not make the mistake of grabbing one of those words like acute, obtuse, right, or equal angular. Those words do not fit into distance at all. Okay, so at this point here, we're going to try 23. I would like for you to pause this here and try it on your own. See if you can do it from start to finish. I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer, but I would challenge you to pause it, try it on your own, check to see if you get it. Now it's either going to be isosceles, scalene, or equilateral. Remember, you could get all three the same, and if that's the case, it's an equilateral. Okay. So first I do JK, then I do KL, and then I go back and I loop up LJ. Okay, now remember, I'm using these letters because that's the ones they gave me. I'm just reminding you that obviously if it had like A, B, C, then it would be A, B, B, C, and then C, A. Like you just follow the same order. Okay, J and K, 1 and 3. So I would count up. I'm at 1, so 2, 3, 2 units. Plus -13 and 3. Since one's negative and one's positive, I have 13 units in the negative, 3 units in the positive. 13 plus 3 is 16 squared. Now this is the one where I did take a scrap sheet of paper and I had to multiply it out. I would use a calculator for this one. This would be the only one I would have to use that for. 2 squared is 2 times 2, so that's 4. Plus, and either on a scrap sheet do it or in a calculator, do 16 times 16, which I previously did already in my other video, so I already have that answer. It's 256. 4 plus 256 is 260. And then don't forget to put a square root around it. Okay, then we're going to go to KL. 3 and 10. I could count up. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7 units. Plus, then I have 3 and -6. Since these are different signs, I would say, okay, 3 units in the positive, 6 units in the negative, 3 and 6 is 9. Okay, then I multiply them out. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 9 times 9 is 81, and I add them together, and I get 130. Then I put a square root. Now, off the bat, first two are different, so I know that this is not going to be an equilateral. It's going to be one of these two. If the next number is the same as one of these, it's isosceles. If it's completely different, then it's a scalene. Okay, we're going to do L to J, 10 and 1. Now I can count up on this one, so 10 and 1. So I'm starting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 9 units. Plus, then I have -3 and -13. Same thing, I can count up. So -6, -7, -8, -9, -10, -11, 12, 13, 7 units. Hopefully you catch on that these are the same numbers. They're just swapped, but you're going to get them the same when you add them. This is going to be 81 plus 49, still going to equal 130. Don't forget to put a square root. When comparing these numbers, these two are the same. And when we have two of them the same, then the type of triangle it is isosceles. Okay. Pause the video here if you need to catch up on any of the work. we're officially done with the notes. We're not going to jump into the classwork. So I think we just got back from Thanksgiving break, nice relaxed time. Don't need to rush and get everything done, and also space it out for those who work a little bit slower. Next class period, we will work on the classwork, solving for triangle sides with algebra, okay? This will require us to set up algebraic problems, and there are more of thinking questions, also some word problems. Now, I definitely think that whenever we're working on the word problem, it is helpful to have a triangle. Let me see if I brought it. I believe I did. Yes. There are templates you can buy. I bought this one on Amazon. I don't have enough for like a class set, but I do have a few in my blue cabinet that if there's a sub in there and you would like to ask her to grab one, she can. I'll probably, if I can, I'll try to come in and take them out before we have this lesson. But either way, if you need to make a triangle, this is a template where you can actually put it on top and then just follow it. Obviously, this is just so they're perfectly aligned. Just freehand the triangle. It's not a big deal. So most of the times I'll probably freehand it, especially if I can't find this thing. But just know if my triangles do look pretty perfect, that's probably why. I probably use that. Okay. Once again, you'll need a calculator for this one, so be prepared for that for the next class. So we're officially done with the notes. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to very quickly, no, we're not going to assign homework 14 yet. It's not assigned yet, so you don't have to do it. But in case you want to go ahead and get started and not fall too far behind from some of the homeworks and let them pile up and all of that, I'm going to go ahead and mark which ones you could do and then not have to worry about having a whole bunch to do the next day. Here are the numbers you could try. You can try numbers 1 through 11. Now, this is not officially assigned, so I'm not putting a due date on it. I will do that in the next video. This is for all classes. You could try 1 through 11 because based off of our notes, 1 through 11 are all the ones you could do. Once it starts on 12, we have not gone through those, so I would pause. Now, if you're up for a challenge, you could try them. Okay, so next class period, we'll do the classwork, get done with those, and then anytime that remains, I'll let you work on the homework. If you would like to try 1 through 11, you can do that right now, have those done, and not have to worry about it. Okay, so I'll end the video